I rise to speak on third reading of Bill S-219, an act to establish Judicial Independence Day. I'm proud to be the sponsor of this bill, which expresses Canada's commitment to democracy and justice for all. I want to acknowledge Senator Moreau for his tireless advocacy for the independence and transparency of democratic institutions. And bringing this bill forward was one of his first acts when he was appointed to this place. Thank you very much, sir. Bill S-219 designates an annual day recognizing judicial independence. It gives us a recurring reminder to check in on the state of our democracy. It's a way of reaffirming the strength of our institutions and a show of solidarity for independent courts around the world. It enshrines our commitments to good governance, the rule of law, and justice for all. It sets Judicial Independence Day for January 11th, the day of the Thousand Robes March in Poland, where in the year 2020, thousands of jurors stood up for the impartiality of courts in Europe. Poland was facing significant overreach and political interference by the governing party at that time, which had adopted muzzle laws and arbitrary disciplinary proceedings that undercut the abilities to be impartial. Thousands of jurors from across Europe gathered to silently and peacefully march through the streets of Warsaw to show that they would not stand for this treatment. They came together in support of a justice system that is stable, predictable, and free of partisan biases. They stood for judicial independence. Judicial independence means a lack of political interference with the activities of the courts. But it also means freedom of jurors to criticize the government and to enforce the rule of law, the constitutions, and the rights of people. It ensures that one head of power is not too concentrated, that there are checks and balances against the power of the legislative and executive branches. In practice, this looks like a transparent and fair appointment process for judges. It looks like security of tenure and resources. And of course, it looks like non-interference by other orders of government. Judicial independence is essential for public trust in institutions and is a vital safeguard for good governance. In his second reading speech, Senator Houssakos described judicial independence as security of tenure, financial security, and administrative independence. However, he argued that, and I quote, "Beneath these technicalities lies a deeper, more fundamental principle, the right of every Canadian to have their rights adjudicated by someone who does not owe their position or their livelihood to the whims of the government of the day," end quote. Senator Houssakos underscored the importance of protecting the courts not only from actual interference, but from any perception that they are influenced by outside factors. Colleagues, you have already heard why this bill matters and why it is especially important in this modern era. During second reading, examples emerge of places where this democratic backsliding and political interference in the courts. All over the world, there are instances of erosion of democracy through the destabilization and weakening of the power of courts. We discussed how institutions can come undone through attacks against judges, lawyers, and their work. We agreed across group and party lines that democracy is an active process that requires an ongoing commitment to the values that underlie it, and that requires an ongoing commitment to the values and the commitment of the strengths of our institutions. We agreed on the vital importance of judicial independence in Canada, not only today, but for the next 7 generations to come. Colleagues, even where the system of checks and balances is strong, like the one we have in Canada, it must not be taken for granted. We must frequently commit to maintaining non-interference in our judicial system, and we must uphold the principles of predictability, relational accountability, and equality for all. These are not simple ideas that I'm suggesting, but rather essential elements of our democracy that we're compelled to uphold by our Constitution, by the common law, and by our international human rights obligations. Creating a day for judicial independence is not just putting a mark on a calendar. It represents an annual commitment to verify the strengths of our institutions and to ensure constant recommitment to our values moving forward. In committee, the Honourable Judge Clayton Conlon of the Canadian Superior Court Judges Association argued that judicial independence is the cornerstone of our constitutional democracy in Canada. He said judicial independence, the separation of powers, distinct branches of government, and the rule of law are some of the most important pillars of our society. The Canadian Superior Court Judges Association strongly supports this bill, not only because it's a way of being vigilant about maintaining the strength of the judiciary in Canada, but because it's a way of supporting the independence of jurors and courts everywhere. With the adoption of Bill S-219, Canada will be the first country to answer the global calls to adopt a National Judicial Independence Day. We will show national solidarity with judges whose independence is threatened by executive overreach. We will stand tall in our values in an era when the strength of justice and trust in institutions are beginning to falter around the world. We will not take judicial independence for granted. Rather, we will engage actively with maintaining the strength of our democratic institutions and the principle of non-interference in courts. And we will be a global leader in expressing our support for the freedom of courts. Colleagues, this is our moment to stand tall in our values and to commit to never becoming complacent. It is our commitment to vigilance over our democracy. Adopting this bill will not only show our solidarity for the jurors everywhere who resist threats to their independence, but it will enshrine our ongoing commitment to integrity, justice, and the rule of law through judicial independence. Honourable Senators, I encourage you to adopt Bill S-219 without amendment and without delay, because we stand for judicial independence. We are Canada, with foundational values that stand for freedom, the rule of law, and justice for all. Walalio, merci, thank you.